whatever it is you do. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It is I have to look at my calendar. Thursday, May the 4th, the beginning of May. It's May the 4th be with you. Sorry, I had to say that. For those Star Wars fans out there. And it's an exciting evening tonight. For those of you who may or may not know me, my name is Carolyn Rodriguez, and I always invite people to come that I want to learn from. I know you want to learn from, but I invite the people that I want to learn from and people who have impacted my life. So I'm starting something called the MasterClass. I figure if Oprah Winfrey can do it, Carolyn Rodriguez can do it. So once a month, I'm going to invite someone who I believe can create an impact, both for you, for your families, for your friends, for your business, and enlarge your life, make things better for you. Not just because we aren't a one-dimensional being. We aren't just isogenics, because who I am and what I'm achieving is spilling over into life. So it's my pleasure to invite my very first guest. When I thought about MasterClass, this gentleman came to mind because he's impacted my life in a very big way. I've been listening to him for a very long time. I've been in the profession of network marketing coming up 19 years. I started when I was 10. Yes, so we'll get that out of the way. But he's been around a little bit longer. 31 years ago, he attended his first network marketing presentation. And imagine that, he got involved right away because he liked what he saw. And decades later, in mastering his craft, he became an industry expert. And, so many of you I know have learned from him. He came to Toronto. That's the first time I saw him, when he came to Toronto, and I was fascinated by how he speaks, his sense of humor. And then I got to meet him in Vancouver, where I was invited by a friend of mine, Warren Lance, to come and support an event he was doing there. And I don't have a team in Vancouver yet. I like to throw that in there. And so I went out there to help my friend Warren, and I met this wonderful gentleman again, Michael Clouse. And Michael was invited by Warren to take a look. So take a look at Isogenics. And in 2011, he liked what he saw. In fact, more than liked what he saw. He signed up right away and decided to jump in with both feet. So in the 26 years, being in this profession of network marketing as a distributor, learning right on the field, being a published author, editor-in-chief, I think, of Upline magazine, a speaker, a trainer. He was impressed, and he's now made his home in Isogenics. And I'm thrilled that he's done that. In 5.5 years, he's built an amazing, amazing team, and of course, partnered with the beautiful Lynn Hagedorn. I think that's where he got lucky. And Michael, you're the number 140th millionaire, and I'm number 40. So we have something in common there. So he's a 13-star platinum, 8-star executive, and of course, everybody knows he lives with his beautiful wife, Lynn, and they are the number one income earners in Isogenics. So Michael, thank you for saying yes right away, because, I don't know what it is. I send a text out, and I'm expecting a yes, but I'm prepared for a no. So when I got the yes, I was like, wow. So always ask, because if you don't ask, the answer is
no.
So Michael, as you can see, you guys, I am a student of personal development. And now some of my stuff is here. Some of my stuff is in Florida. Some of it is in my phone. And I firmly believe in using your, what I call, downtime. And I've learned this from Michael, when you're in the bathroom and, well, I'm not shaving, but I'm blow drying my hair with my earphones in, or if I'm putting on my makeup, how am I enriching my mind, right? Because our mind is a place that we cultivate. And I know if my mind was left to its own devices, it would be a scary thing. So I fill it with thoughts, actions, ideas that I've learned, from Michael. So Michael, your mentors in the past have been people like, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. But I want to take people back to your beginnings, because people see that all those colloquial sayings, they see the glory, they don't know the story. You're a high school dropout. You got married at a very young age. You had a child at a very young age. You were on welfare. You couldn't feed your kids. You were, living on food stamps. And so now here you are, the number one income earner in Isogenics, you and your beautiful wife. And so there are people on the line who are, going through this journey, this up and down journey, where they see people like you and Lynn on the stage, and they're like, wow, like they're so impressed. And then they come out of that cocoon of safety in an isogenics environment, and they go back to their own environment, and that belief level goes down, and their ability to stay in the game goes down, and, distractions creep in, and lack of results creep in. So I got lots of Michaelisms, and I know I'm all over the place. So I'm just going to let you run with this thing, because I go with the main thing, and the box is only big enough for a number, and, all of those little things fill my head. So I've learned some things from you, and you've helped me so much when I've been on the stage doing the mirroring stuff. So how do we program, deprogram, reprogram our mind to stay in the game and not let all these things distract you, like your current circumstances? So I'm just going to let you take it away.
Well, I appreciate that. And first of all, thank you for having me on. And to those of you that are investing your time this evening live, thank each and every one of you personally. For those of you that will be watching later, just think about how we tend to take in information. And rare is the individual that will hear something once and retain it. They're out there. We usually refer to them as brilliant photographic memory, but that's not most of us. It certainly isn't me. So I learned early on, one of the shortcuts to success was to be open and willing to identify one's challenge, fault, obstacle, whatever it happens to be. There's something for each of us where we're working on it, where we're just not very good at it. And when I certainly got involved in the networking profession, I wasn't very good at this. And so instead of trying to master it overnight, and let's face it, today in 2017, we live in a very instant world. If the phone doesn't pop up immediately, if we call someone and they don't grab it on the first ring, if we send them, as you pointed out, a text message, we're like, I sent it 8 minutes ago. Why haven't they responded? What's going on? But that really has transcended our society. And as a result of that, the concept of delayed gratification, which most of us grew up understanding that, life was a progression, and you started at the bottom and you kind of worked your way up to the top. Those things have all been forgotten. Today, the kids want to have as much money as the parents when they move out of the house. And, oh, by the way, why don't you just buy us a house? So it's a very different world that we're living in. But for me, I was blessed with the knowledge from a leader a long time ago who basically said, spend more time on less material. So find what you need to learn and just be willing to go over it and over it and over it again. I think it was Jim Rohn who said, don't try to get through it, try to get something from it. And so I remember a conversation. This was kind of a changing point for me as a teacher, as an educator. I was in Bend, Oregon at the time. And as you mentioned, I grew up in poverty. The one thing I'll make a slight adjustment just for people who know, they'll know this being true. I didn't have any problem at all feeding my kids. Because when you're on welfare, they give you food stamps. And my kids actually were eating things like filet mignon because food is food. Now, I couldn't buy diapers for them. I couldn't buy toothpaste or toothbrushes, or, you couldn't buy shampoo. You couldn't buy soap, but you could buy filet mignon for your kids. So we ate really, really well. We were just incredibly poor. But when you understand kind of that whole space, and then you grow up and you realize what happened, well, somebody gave me a book. And I started reading the book and realized, wow, this was all new material for me. It was entitled The Richest Man in Babylon. So I remember sitting down with this couple, and they were having some challenges financially. And after everyone had left, because certainly you would never want to have this conversation with somebody publicly. So after everybody had left, he privately reached out to me and he said, as you can probably see from our surroundings, we're having some serious challenges financially. I understand you did too. What can I do? And I recommended, I said, well, there's one book. I'll recommend you go get it. And it's The Richest Man in Babylon. And he said to me, now, this is the part of the story you really want to hone in on. He said to me, oh, I've already read that book. What else do you recommend? And I looked at him and I said, you've already read that book? Okay, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend you read it again. And so sometimes that is the challenge that we face. If you do the push-up, you need to do the push-up again. If you pick up the weight and you put it back down, and then you looked at your trainer and said, I picked up the weight, I put it back down. What's the trainer going to say? Do it again. And you go talk to someone, and let's just say it goes incredibly well, and they involve themselves with isogenics. What do? We do it again. If we talk to somebody and it doesn't go well, what do we have to do? We have to learn how to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and do it again. So that whole concept of just getting better over time, what I would refer to now as progressively educating someone. We understand progressive education in the secular world. If I asked about how old your son or daughter happened to be, or maybe your grandson or daughter, and you said they were 6 or 7, I would think they're going into maybe grade 1 or grade 2. I wouldn't ask you what university they were attending, because we understand that education is progressive. But when we're talking to people who are adults, we sometimes forget that when we bring them in our case, to the space of our company, Isogenics, that although they all look like they're grown up, and they are, and they all look like they're mature, and they are, this for them is new. And so we have to treat them in that context. We have to take it in small pieces and give it to them progressively over time so that they can become comfortable. And that really is just what it's about. It's about finding out what are the fundamentals and mastering those fundamentals and trying as best you can not to deviate from those fundamentals and continuing until you get the results that you want from those fundamentals. It's really not any more complicated than that, but let me also suggest to you, it's easy to explain the game of golf. It's not hard. You put the ball on the tee, and then your objective is to hit the little ball, the golf ball, off of the big ball, the earth, without getting too much of the big ball, the earth, onto the little ball, the golf ball. So just hit the ball and put it about 250 yards down the fairway, and then grab your iron and put it up on the green, and grab your putter and put it in the hole. And that sounds logical and okay, I can process that in my mind. And then you go up and you put the ball down on the ground, and you take that swing, and you look down and the ball's still there because you missed it completely. And then you recognize that it's very easy to explain to someone what to do, but it's significantly more difficult to execute, even if it's really simple. And so just keep that in mind as you're moving forward. It's going to take some time. You're going to have to go through a lot of repetition. It's not going to feel comfortable in the beginning. So why would we waste our time doing it? And here's the lesson. And if we can remember this, I think this is probably one of the greatest lessons of all. And it's for what it will provide us if we're successful. Again, Jim Rohn taught me a lot of things, but one of them happened to be, before you start climbing the ladder of success, make sure it's leaning against the right building. So here we're in the space of isogenics. And so we say to someone like Carolyn, you've been around for a long time. Why would I want to learn all of this? And Carolyn says, well, this is the lifestyle that's been able to afford my family. You say, wow, that sounds really great. But are you a unique individual in that context? And Carolyn says, no, I was millionaire number 104, or number 40. Now we have 221, I think. They just announced 221. So imagine if you could sit down with all 221 of those people and you could ask them, was the price you paid worth it? What do you think they would say? And here's the crazy part. I don't know all of the millionaires in our space, but I know enough of them to know that they are more than pleased with the sacrifices that they put in, with the results that they've gotten out, and the lifestyle that is ensued as a result of it. So, I just basically think that life is a little bit like this. I really do believe that there's three magical things that we all want in common. And I use the word magical because try to imagine that you were walking along that beautiful beach and all of a sudden you stubbed your toe on something. It didn't hurt too terribly bad, and you reached down and picked it up and it looked like a lamp. In fact, it looked like the lamp you remember from that childhood story your mother or father used to read to you called Aladdin's lamp. You think, no, it couldn't possibly be Aladdin's lamp. But just for grins, you decided to pick it up and to rub it. And voila, out of that lamp popped that magical genie and said, it's really true. You have the lamp, I'm your master, and you have but 3 wishes. Now, I know I'm being a bit silly, but if you really did get 3 wishes, what would they be? And I think if we opened the rest of this conversation up tonight on Zoom, we could probably get a pretty great debate going on if we really could have but 3 wishes, what they would be. But after being in the space of isogenics for a number of years, here's what I think mine would be. And I'll share them with you, and then you can decide if you think you might also think, that sounds pretty good. I think I'd like to have that too. So wish number 1, I would say to the genie, I would love to have perfect health for as long as I'm allowed to be here. I don't want my body to break down. I don't want to eventually hunch over and have my skin sag and end up with blindness in one eye or some disease, or eventually fall down and break a hip and end up in the hospital and then, die alone in a nursing home. It's not what I want. I don't care how long I have, but on the day I'm no longer supposed to be here, I'd like to just drop stone cold dead. That's my wish. I want to be in perfect health for every single minute of the day. I want to wake up feeling amazing, go through the day with effortless ease. I want to have plenty of energy to do what I want to do, sleep like a baby at night. I want my body to behave. I want to live in a better body. Genie says, boom, you've got it. Wish number 1. Well, what would be wish number 2? I say, okay, well, if I've got this beautiful body, you know what I would also like to have? I'd like to have a bigger bank account. I don't want to worry about bills. I don't want to worry about where I put my kids in school. I don't want to worry about where I have to live. I want to be able to live where it's comfortable for me or safe for me or provides enjoyment or pleasure for me. I don't need to be the wealthiest guy on planet Earth. Some of those people aren't too happy. But I want to be able to have a bank account large enough that I can design the life I want to live, and whatever it is that I want to do, I'll have the resources there to do it. Genie says, fair enough. Boom. So now I have the better body to live in, and I have the bigger bank account to live from. Genie says, you've got 1 more wish. And I think about that for a moment, and then I realize, you know what I probably would wish for? And again, we could get a great debate going here, but I would wish for the gift of time. Time to be able to enjoy both. Because let me give you an illustration. Imagine if I happen to be a martial arts expert, which I'm not, and I was hired by a very wealthy family for their protection. And they said, we'll pay you $1 million a year, but you're going to live in our guest house and you're going to travel with us wherever we go in the world, private jets, yachts, all of those things, but you will literally never leave my side. Okay, well, I'd have to keep my body in amazingly great shape, so I'm living in that better body. I'm getting paid $1 million a year. That certainly would be out of a bigger bank account. But if I'm at the beck and call of that individual, will I ever have the gift of time? And the answer is no. I will be living their life, but not my own. Now, that may not be a bad life for some people, but for me, I want to be able to live in that better body, live out of that bigger bank account, and have the time to enjoy both. And I think that when you have that magical combination, it allows us to sit down, to plan out, and then to move forward in a direction that we actually want to go. That, for me, is the payoff. And so if I said to someone, does that sound reasonable to you? And they say, that sounds more than reasonable. That sounds wonderful. Okay, then we want to get you on these products so that we can have your body perform, because you don't get a magical wish. You've got to go to work on your body. It's your responsibility. It's the only place you have to live. And let's simultaneously go to work on your bank account. Again, you aren't going to inherit wealth, probably. You're probably not going to be the lucky lottery winner. And even if you are, that may not go well for you. So you're going to have to create this on your own. Let me show you what we've been able to do to successfully help other people. And if we do it right, we should be able to do this where this can be incorporated into the fabric of your life so that you actually have time to enjoy that body and that bank account. And to me, that is the gift of isogenics. And that's why we get up early. And that's why we stay up late. And that's why we go through the material again and again and again, like an actor learning a line for a role in a movie, hoping for the coveted Academy Award. We want to get that line down so well that when we deliver it on set, we don't give the impression that it's a line written by somebody else. We give the impression that it really is us. And so, I had to learn how to talk to people, and it wasn't comfortable for me. And I would try certain things, they didn't really work out. And so I had to become that actor. But I had to become that actor who was so comfortable that it literally did become me. I wasn't being, inauthentic. It was just I had to learn how to ask people and really listen and follow up with them and try to uncover their issues and then provide a solution that they could see as reasonable. And when I figured out how to do that, then this business became effortless and easy. But like the game of golf, not always perfect. Even Tiger Woods or whoever you happen to follow on the golf course is going to have issues from time to time and maybe miss that putt. And so if you ever think watching this that, Carolyn or Lynn or myself or a Susan Sly or, a Emily or a Hayden or anybody else that in the space of Isogenics just somehow magically sits down with people and tells them a story and they're like so amazed with what we've told them. They say, yes, please enroll me. Let me be mentored by you. No, we still have people that tell us, no, thank you. This won't work. It's not possible. These things are, those types of businesses. And that's okay. I gave up trying to convince people a long time ago that this was a good idea and decided instead to find out if they were interested in the solution that I was able to provide. And if I could share one more story, and then I know you've got some questions there, so we'll move on to those. But I've often thought, because as you mentioned in my introduction, I didn't have an opportunity to go to university. In fact, I didn't have an opportunity to graduate from high school. My formal education just goes through the end of grade 11. And, I left home when I was 17. I got married at 18, child number 1 at 20, child number 2 at 22. And at 22, that's when that was the kind of the interesting turning point, married 4 years, two kids and living on welfare. It was a very, very difficult and auspicious start for me in the world. So I've often wondered, hearing these stories about people that were able to go to university, to go to a good school, to sit in front of a professor who seemed to really know their stuff and to really educate that class in a way that would be memorable for them. But it got me to thinking, why is it that we don't teach a class called Opportunity 101 that's as required as English or science or math? And if we did, my mind was wandering one afternoon, if we did teach that class at university, and again, it was required as much as English or math or science would be, what would it look like? And if I were the professor, what would the outline or the curriculum be? And I got to thinking, I think what I would tell my students is Opportunity 101 is about how to identify the largest problem you can possibly identify within the scope of people that those people actually want to solve. Now, maybe not all of them, but give me the largest problem that people are truly interested in solving. Find a solution that those individuals will actually accept as truth. That might be worthy of consideration. I think that's a good idea. I would love to try that. And figure out a way to slip yourself in between the problem, the people who have it, and the solution, and monetize it. And if you could do that, you might stand to make a fortune. After all, Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, recognized, as you can probably see here, most men have a problem. They need to shave. I didn't do it today. Warren's not that concerned about me not shaving today because Warren knows tomorrow I'll probably shave. And if I don't shave tomorrow, certainly the next day. And even if I decided to take a bit of a hiatus and grow a beard, which I just don't want to do, but even if I did, he knows I might keep it for 6 months or for a year or whatever. But at some point I'm going to wake up in the morning or Lynn's going to take a look at me and she will say, that's got to go. So what am I going to do? Well, I've got a problem. I have to shave. What's the solution? Well, I've got to find some way to get this off my face. So he bought this company called Gillette. And he said, if I can suggest to these people that I've got a good razor blade and they've got this problem, they've got to get this stuff off their face and they like my product and I can monetize that, I can make a fortune. And really, when you think about it, That's all we are doing in the space of isogenics. We've identified a problem. Number one New Year's resolution every single year is lose weight. I mean, everyone talks about it or seemingly talks about it. And if it's not losing weight, it's certainly getting in shape in some capacity. I'm going to join the gym, climb the mountain, get back into my bikini, get back into my swimsuit. You get the idea. That's the problem. And if it's not physical, have you ever noticed when you're talking about your own New Year's resolutions, it's financial? I'm going to go for the raise, ask for the promotion, start the business, invest in that account, find a decent stock, expand my 401k, do something with my retirement. I'm going to do something. So here we've got these people out here, lots of them, and every single year they all sit around and say, we have a problem. If only there was a solution. And now we come along with isogenics, and like that genie in the bottle, we can pop out and say, we can show you, we won't give it to you, we can't just endow you with this, but we can show you how to live in that better body, we can show you how to live out of that bigger bank account and have the freedom of time. Would you like that? And for the people who say yes, we've got a perfect opportunity to expand that conversation. And if they don't say yes, it's time to move on and wait for them to realize that this might be a solution. But for some of them, it's never going to be a solution. Never. Never.
All right. Well, like say, what is it? E.F. Hutton speaks, you listen a lot. Well, you speak, I listen. And you make it sound so simple. So what are the fundamentals? And, there's another Michael Clouse ism, a repetition.
Right.
So why is it so difficult for some people? And not that it's easy for others, because again, you see the glory, you don't see the story, the iceberg theory, you see, the duck, all of that stuff, the ducks paddling like mad under the water. But why is it that some people seem to be able to move forward and others don't?
Well, it's more than one thing. Let's be clear about that. I love simple stories and simple illustrations. And one of them might be like this, to answer your question. If you woke up in the morning and decided for whatever reason you wanted to make a cherry pie, and you knew your way around a kitchen, but it had been a long time since you'd actually made a cherry pie, what would you do? And I think most of us know we would go find a cookbook. Or thankfully now we wouldn't even need to do that. We would just pop online and type in cherry pie in Google and probably find a recipe pretty quickly. Now, usually that recipe is going to have a few components. Number one, it will tell us the ingredients. Here's what you need. And if you know your way around a kitchen, you could probably guess. Cherries, because it's a cherry pie. There's probably sugar in it because it's a pie. It's going to have a pie crust, so it probably needs flour and maybe some egg. There's always egg and things like that. So some of that's going to make a lot of sense. But imagine you'd never made a pie before, ever. And you're looking at this ingredient list, and it calls for salt, which, by the way, if you're making a cherry pie, it does. And you think, wait a minute, pies are sweet. I'm putting in sugar. Why salt? This must be wrong. This doesn't make any sense. This must be an error. I'm smarter than the person who did the recipe. I'll just leave that out. And so you do. Do you realize, if I pause for a moment, that the largest amount of food in a typical Canadian Thanksgiving is usually the turkey, and the smallest amount of food is usually the seasoning, the salt? But can you imagine if you made that traditional American or Thanksgiving dinner in either your country or ours? Can you imagine if you put everything together that you enjoyed eating, but you left the salt out? You just thought, it's so small, it's so inconsequential, it couldn't possibly matter. What do you think the meal would be like? And we know, not so good. It wouldn't have a lot of flavor. We wouldn't maybe necessarily get it right away, but there would just be something about it that it wouldn't be quite right. And so my point is that when we're building our businesses, oftentimes there are little tiny things that no one really points out. They might say, go do this, and it doesn't make sense. So we don't, as opposed to just recognizing, oh, this is just part of the formula, so we should. So we have to have the right ingredients. That's number one. Number two, we need to know the order in which those ingredients go together. This is critical, and I want to come back to that in a moment. And then number three, we have to realize temperature and time. It doesn't matter how much of in a hurry you are. If it says it's going to take an hour to bake it at 350 degrees, it's going to take an hour to bake it at 350. But guess what? 350 for me is not 350 for you. Because if you don't convert from Fahrenheit to yours and you try to do 350, you're going to catch the house on fire. It's too hot. So you have to be able to make those adjustments and to kind of know those things. Now, anyone who knows their way around a kitchen knows how to convert maybe from liters to cups or whatever it happens to be, and they know how to make those. But here in the space of isogenics, most of the time we don't give them a recipe, or we don't walk them through the process, or we don't explain to them that no matter how hard you try, this may not look like the cover of the cookbook. But if you follow it as best you can, it will probably taste okay. So what's my point? We have the ingredients in the recipe for success. And my opinion is the ingredients are, we need to be a product of the product, number one. If you want to log into your back office and see how well you're doing, see how close to 100 points you're getting. And if your goal is to get as close to 100 points as you possibly can, and you're like me, way back in the day, if I can just be candid, you're poor, I get it. You're doing the best you can. But if you're not strapped financially and you're trying to get this as close to 100 points as you possibly can, you probably are lacking belief in the value of these products, which is going to make it difficult for you to build this business. So we've got to be a product of the product first and foremost. We really do. Lynn and I, on average, and please, I say this, please understand my backstory when I'm telling you this. This is not today we have money, so it's easy for us. It's like, when does that start? But today, Lynn and I go through probably about 630 to 650 points per month for two people. Sometimes we buy product to give away as gifts, which is true. But if you came and look at our pantry, we've got the AMP line, Knox every day. We use the E-shots. It's the protein, 2-3 protein shakes a day. We have the bars. We have everything. We have the products in our home, and they're just part of the fabric of who we are. This is what we do. Food goes in second. Isogenics goes in first. That's after almost 6 years. So we're really believers in this product. Now, does that mean we don't like knife and fork food? Oh, far from it. We hired for the very first time a chef who's now coming into our house and prepares meals for us. We've never done that before. This is a unique experience. She's been twice. I know. But, when people say, well, what are you eating besides isogenics? It's really healthy knife and fork food. But it's the combination of those things. But we've got to have the ingredients. We have to be a product of the product first. Nothing will take you any further if we can't get that handled. Do the best you can, but do all you can. But make sure you believe in this. And then number two, you've got to go to work on the business fundamentals. You've got to learn how to talk to people. And by the way, I used to say talk to people as in talk to people. Now I have to put it in air quotes, talk to people. Because talk to people may mean a private message on Facebook. It could be an email. It could be a text message. It could be a call. It could be a WhatsApp. It could be a Marco Polo video pop-in thing. There's so many different reach out methods. Don't get lost on talk to people. But if you don't know how to reach out to someone, that's a skill. It's one of the fundamentals that you need to learn. Like if you don't know what preheat an oven means, you're going to be in a world of hurt if you're going to get baking in your kitchen. You have to know what that means. It's one of the fundamentals. Number two, we have to master presentation, sharing the story. And Carolyn, you had alluded to this earlier about keeping the main thing the main thing. But somehow, some way, the story must be told. Now, you can tell the story. Something like an ISA movie can tell the story. You have maybe a private Facebook group product page that can tell the story. Maybe a three-way call with someone else could tell the story. Maybe it's an event that's telling the story. Maybe it's a corporate Zoom call that you're inviting them on, which they do from time to time, that's telling the story. But the story's got to be told. Somebody's got to tell the story. And so if we don't master how to actually tell that story, again, we're missing one of the fundamentals. And then the last one, which I think we don't ever really spend enough time on, which I've been bouncing around almost the entire call on this one aspect, is the teaching and training aspect when someone says, yes, what I've been calling for years, duplicating. So we have prospecting, presenting, and duplicating. But all duplicating is what do I do when Carolyn says yes? Or what does Carolyn do when I say yes? What does she do? And if she has to think about it, it's probably not going to go well for her long term. Carolyn has to know, this is a customer. They only want to be a customer. This is the pack they ordered. These are the goals they told me they're interested in achieving. What am I going to do with them now? And if I'm basically going to say, well, your box will be there in a few days, it's not that hard. I mean, if you can read, you can read, can't you? Oh, you can read? Brilliant. All the instructions are on the back of it. Read. If you're not willing to read, I can't help you. You know, if we had that attitude with people, first of all, they're not going to like us. And secondarily, we're not going to get very far. We have to really kind of hold hands with people in the beginning. But what if they're beyond a customer and want to advance off into becoming an associate? We again have to teach them. What are we going to do first? What are we going to do second? Do you want the very first thing they do to be a post on Facebook? Some teams do. Or do you want the very first thing that they do to be a reach out on maybe a text message? Some people do that. Or do you want the very first thing that they do to kind of be old-fashioned? Make a list of the people you'd like to reach out to, and then we'll discuss it and go from there. Or do you want to go down the road of, hey, get the map to crystal executive and ask yourself, do I know 10 people who each know 10 people? Or sorry, who each know 2 people who eat food? Fill that out and start reaching out to those people. Whatever it is, we have to kind of know what the direction we're going to go. And the only reason that we want to stay as consistently as possible is because the profession we're in is the same. Network marketing is the same. Love it, hate it, in between, doesn't matter. It's the same. The company we've chosen, Isagenix, is the same. They don't have a different story for Carolyn because she's around longer. And they certainly don't have a different story for Carolyn because she's a woman. The story about Isagenix for Carolyn is the same as it is for me. It's the Isagenix story. So the profession's the same, the company's the same, the products are the same, at least in the space that we're operating in. You know, if you go to the UK, they're not going to have everything we have here today, but everybody in the UK will have access to the same product. So that's the important part to remember. It doesn't play partialities, no favorites. Compensation is the same. You know, it's sad that in 2017, I still know that men tend to be paid more than women in most corporate jobs. It's not fair, but it's also very true. It's also maybe not fair that they tend to start everybody at the bottom, and you've got to prove yourself for 6 months before you get that first raise. But in a lot of corporate jobs, that's what it is. You're the new person, you start at the bottom, and you've got to crawl your way up the corporate ladder. It doesn't work that way here. If I sign up, if my daughter signs up, if my cousin signs up, it doesn't matter. Experience, no experience, brand new at this, first time. If you go out and enroll somebody in a 30-day system that has a $25 PIB, and then you enroll somebody else, the company's going to not only do that, they're going to double it for you just like anybody else. It doesn't matter. So if all that's the same, to your point, Carolyn, why do we have different levels of success? And the answer is the last one. We're unwilling to go to work on the fundamentals, what we call the U factor. This is where we separate people. Profession is the same. Company's the same. Products are the same. Compensation is the same. But we are different as people. So for me, I learned a long time ago to keep it really simple, not to make it too complicated, to stay on point and not to deviate. And Carolyn knows me really well, that in all the noise that comes out there, I tend not to deviate. And people are like, well, we're turning left here for a little bit. It's like, okay, that's okay. I'm not turning left. I'm going to go straight. So why are you going straight? I don't know. Straight seemed to work for me. I'm going to go straight. And then people will go, well, we're going to go right for a while. It's like, okay, right's fine. I mean, it's beautiful over there, I suppose, but I'm still going to go straight. And why are you going straight? I don't know. Straight seems to work for me. And I think that when people know me in the very beginning, that kind of they either accept that about me or it kind of annoys them. But as the years unfold, every single time I've ever been involved in a project, people come back after 5 years or sometimes 10. My previous company, I was there 10 years. And they're like, you're still doing the same thing you were a decade ago. Yeah. Why? It still works. You know, I mean, if I had my grandmother's cherry pie recipe, what would I really be doing differently today? I still need the ingredients. I still put it together the same way. I still put it in the same oven or the new oven, but I still cook it at the same temperature for the same amount of time, and it still tastes delicious when it's all said and done. Now, if my goal is to enjoy that cherry pie, I could look around for 1,000 more recipes, or I can just go, this has been working for a long, long time. Let's just keep doing this. Now, that being said, you have to be open to change. Lynn loves to tell the story. When she first reached out to me, she sent me a text message. And this was probably 14 years ago. And I replied back to text message, I'm not going to text you. If you want to talk to me, call me. Because I thought texting was a complete and utter waste of time. Why on earth would I sit here with my phone and try to figure out how to do this when I could just talk to her? Today, if my phone rings, I'll look at the phone and I'll think, now why would they call me? They know I'm not going to pick up. That's ridiculous. It can go to voicemail. They can send me a text. I mean, I've come full circle. But even though technology has continued to make us evolve and change and learn different things, we're still finding people to talk to, the prospecting piece. You have to master that. We're still learning how to tell the isogenic story, the presenting piece. And we're still teaching and trading the duplicating piece. I will say one thing, and then I'm going to turn this back to you. Every once in a while, you get this kind of bolt of brilliance. I don't know where it comes from. It's not always mine. Oftentimes it's Lynn's. Sometimes it's from another leader. You know, you'll be sitting there in an auditorium. Maybe it's an ICU. Maybe it's a celebration. And somebody will say something, and you'll just think, that is so good. And you'll just incorporate it into what you've currently been doing, and you'll get a very good result. And we had one of those within the team. And I tried it a few times, and it was just so good. And so we shared it on a Facebook Live. And I'll tell you the story, and then if it works out for you, you'll see how effective this can be. We're not deviating from the fundamentals. We're just adding how we use the fundamentals. So this came down to how we tell the story. And it dawned on me when they updated the whole website, and they updated iSaMovie, and they came out with that video called Today is the Day. And I thought, I really like that video. I mean, I really like it. Now, if it doesn't serve you, that's okay. But I really like it. But not everybody's going to really like it. I mean, I really like it, but not everybody's going to really like it. And it was really bothering me that they kind of put it front and center. Like I didn't have a lot of choice. Like that was the video. If I went to iSaMovie, that was the one there. And then there were the other categories. And I'm processing all this information, and I think to myself, wait a minute. You know what this is like? This is like going to a nice restaurant. And we decided to go to, say, this great Italian restaurant. And I want to go there to have some really good Italian food, but it's a nice place. And as we're seated and the person comes out and says, you know, hi, I'm Tony. I'll be taking care of you tonight. And what I'd like to do is start off by telling you the chef's special. And I think to myself, I haven't even looked at a menu yet. But we know what happens. They want to tell us a special. So Tony tells us a special. We sit back and we listen. Now, what's Tony trying to do? Tony's trying to decide what he wants to basically sell to us. Tony's figured out, or the chef's figured out, or the owner's figured out, this tonight is what we're going to push to everybody who walks in the door. This is our special. But they package it in such a beautiful way. You know, we're going to do this and fillet this and serve it like this, and it's going to come with this. And I don't know about you, but a lot of the time when I hear the chef's special, I won't even open the menu. I'll say, you know what? That sounds great. I'll just have that. But not everyone feels the same way. Somebody else might say, well, that's okay. I'm going to take a look at the menu. Perfect. So we open up the menu, and what do we find? Most menus, if you pay attention, are in categories. Maybe we have the steaks. Maybe you've got the seafood. Maybe you've got the chicken dishes. Maybe you've got the pastas or the salads or something of the sort. So we look around and we decide what we want. Tony comes back and everybody orders what they want. And when you think about it, isn't that what iSaMovie really is? Somebody at corporate has made an arbitrary decision that the chef's special is Today is the Day. Hey, if that interests you, we're done. Let me know and I'll show you how to get started. But what if that doesn't interest you? Well, if you look down further, you're going to find we have weight loss, we've got energy, we've got performance, we've got healthy aging, and we used to have wealth creation. Now they've spun a little word in there, and I think it now says opportunity. But if I've got the word right, it's still the same thing. It's still talking about how we can earn money with isogenics. And so what I've been doing is saying to people when they say, well, what's this all about? Say, well, you know, Instead of saying, oh, it's isogenics and it's this and it's that, and we're, company 15 years old and $5 billion, and we're into health and wellness and you can lose weight and there's a lot of money here. I mean, sometimes even I find myself going up there and just, so they say, well, what's this all about? Well, when you go to a nice restaurant, maybe it's an Italian place, and Tony comes out and says, I'll be taking care of you. But before, I give you the menus, I like to tell you about the chef special. And they're usually nodding, uh-huh. And when they present that chef special to you, sometimes it just sounds amazing, and maybe it's not what you would have ordered, but you think, why not? I'll try it. But sometimes it's not exactly what you want, and so you look at the menu and it's divided into the steaks and the seafood and the chicken and things like that. Yeah. Well, we have a little video website, and it's really designed the same way. It's our menu. Now, we've got our chef special front and center, and then we've got the categories that we're in. Here's what I'd like to suggest. Let me just drop it into a private message on Facebook. Or let me just text it to you. Let me just email it to you. Whatever communication you're using with the people. Take a look at the special. Take a look at the video there. And if that really kind of speaks to you like it did me, then let's talk about that. If it doesn't, look down at the subcategories. If it was a real menu, it'd be the steaks or the chicken or the fish or seafood or whatever it is. Look at the submenus and see if one of those doesn't really speak to you. And if it does, just click on it and watch a video or two there, and then let's talk about that. And almost every time they'll say, okay. Now, what have I told them? The answer is nothing. What I'm trying to do is whet their appetite or their curiosity enough where the tool will do the talking so that we can level the playing field. We can get our own personalities out of the way. We don't speak too much to some people, not enough to another. And oftentimes when you do that, I think you're going to be delighted at what happens. But don't miss the point. You only learn those things by being out in the trenches, doing it over and over again, and then having the company update everything. And then you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, well, what am I supposed to do with this now? And then because you're doing it all day long, you become like somebody who knows how to cook. And one day you're hungry and you're in your own kitchen and you don't know what you're going to do for a meal. And you open up the refrigerator and you take a look and you see what's there and you think, I got it. I know what to do. And that's exactly who we are in the field. We're just out there in the trenches doing it every single day. And every once in a while, you end up putting something together that works out well. Try the menu. I think you really like it.
Well, I think you like food or something. Cherry pie. It was chocolate cake before.
That's right.
It was baking the cake. You moved on to pie. Okay, so I had lots of notes. So what I'm getting is, first of all, make it relatable to people. And I think oftentimes we talk in all these network marketing isms and lingo. And so what can people relate to? For you, obviously, it's food. For somebody else, maybe something else. I talk about the library. That people walk into the library and you're looking for a book. Well, there's a million books. So what do? You go to the particular, whatever category you're looking for, and then you pick the book that you want. You don't go in here, oh, it's a library. Oh my goodness, there's so many books. Oh, I'm talking like you. Oh my goodness, there's so many books in here. Is Lynn listening? Am I doing a good job? There's so many books in here. How do I choose a book? And I leave because there's too many books. So I get what you're saying. Make it relatable to people. Being coachable, consistent, duplicatable. And this is so relevant today that we get bored. Was it you or Lynn who said mastering the mundane? Who was it? The two of you have blended together now. I can't see your isism. Was it you?
Yes.
There's one more Michael Clouse-ism. Mastering the mundane. And I think people get tired of mastering the mundane and they're looking for the shiny object because mastering the mundane becomes boring and it's not fun. And so, let me go to this company over here. Can you just quickly touch on that?
We've been talking a lot about this recently, and the challenge we're facing today is we're living in really unprecedented times. Today, anyone can brand themselves a so-called expert on Facebook Live. And, it could be a friend of yours that just decides, I'm going to be a dog expert. And before you know it, they're putting out dog videos. And, maybe they have a dog, but, I don't know if we should really be giving a lot of credibility to so many of the people that are out there. But it's so easy to do that there's a lot of noise. And that's why it becomes really difficult. Who's going to have my attention today? And for me personally, I think that once you've made a decision, stay and give it enough time to figure it out. I think one of the ultimate shortcuts in life, if there is a shortcut in life, is to figure out what you want and then to find somebody who already has it, to ask them what they did to get it, to see if it's reasonable for you to do that as well, and if it is, to continue doing it until you've actually proven that it's possible for you to do it too. So if we liken that into the space of Isagenix, I'll promise you this: if we could sit all 218, 22, 1, whatever the number is now, millionaires down, and if we could say, how did you become an Isagenix millionaire? That would be too open a question. But if we started narrowing it down, saying, did you work 2 network marketing companies simultaneously to become a millionaire in Isagenix? We would hear 100% of the time, no, this is what I did. Oh, okay. Did it happen overnight? No. Were there times you thought, what am I doing? Who am I kidding? This is too hard. It won't last. No one's listening. People are quitting. Did you ever second guess yourself? I still second guess myself. Of course. Okay. If we started asking those questions, I think what people would end up realizing is, wow, this is an individual who simply got involved, started moving down a road, fell down, got up, fell down, got up, fell down, got up, but just pretty much did the best they possibly could to stay on the road. And if you go back to Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, the only time they ever got into trouble is when they got off the road. You know, you can't plan on flying monkeys, but, you know, they said stay on the yellow brick road. And when they got off the yellow brick road, it didn't go well. And even at the very end of the movie, if I can take your viewers back, when the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy and the Scarecrow, they saw the land of Oz, this ultimate destination they'd been trying to get to. And if you remember, the yellow brick road went all the way around and circled way back up. And they could clearly see, wait a minute, it's right there in front of us. But the yellow brick road went all the way around and came back up. And so what did they do? Well, they did the shortcut. They started running across the field. Of course, it was the field of poppies, which, you know, they got tired and they fell asleep. And, you know, in theory, according to this silly little story, they could have died. They had been told repetitively, follow the yellow brick road. Just stay on the yellow brick road. That's all they had to do. Now, it's a silly little movie. We know it didn't happen. But wow, is it a good metaphor in life. Just stay on the yellow brick road. There will always be another opportunity. And whoever put it together will always think it's a great opportunity. But if you stick around this profession long enough, you'll recognize why people like me have come out of retirement, have focused their time, effort, and energy here, have in essence walked away from everything they were doing before, which I did, and just focused here because this is the place to be. I mean, this is just the place to be. But if we can't capture your imagination or your attention for the reward, we've got to figure out how we can do that. But man, I'm telling you, you know, sometimes it's just being on a call like this. You know, sometimes it's being at celebration. I'll tell you one thing, knowing what I now know about Isagenix, if there is a secret to shortening your learning curve, it's attend every large corporate event. Starting with the next up and coming one, I believe is going to be Celebration. I don't think there's anything between now and then, but if there was an ICU, I'd go. I don't know what happens. I don't really understand it because the head knowledge can all be learned without going there. Most of them now are being live streamed. So we say, well, what's the point? I'll just pay the $50 and sit at home and watch it. But do you? Mm-hmm. I'm a Seahawks fan. You can see that right here. See that? Seahawks? Mm-hmm. The Seahawks logo there. And I have DirecTV, a little plug for those guys, because they're the only provider that will guarantee I get every Seahawks game in Bennington, Nebraska. Because, you know, in Seattle, I would just turn on TV, but in Nebraska, you got to pay. And that's okay. I'm willing to pay. I want to watch the Seahawks. So I have it DVR'd every game because the games are not always convenient for me. And I do my best just to shelter myself when the game is on because I don't want to know. I want to come home and I want to pretend. I want to pretend the game is live and I want to watch it. So how good am I at pretending? Not very good. If the game isn't going the way of the Seahawks, I grab the remote control. I hate to admit it, but I fast forward because I'm bored. I'm bored with watching them drop the ball, fumble the ball. They lost the ball. The other team scored. Then they scored again. It's like, how in the world? I'm not giving up 3 hours of my life if this thing is going to go sideways. And you know what I hate to admit that I've actually done a few times when they're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns? I'll grab my smartphone and I'll ask it, who won the game? And it will say the Seahawks lost by 28 points. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to watch this. And I think sometimes in life, that's what happens. Now, if I were at the game, I would have to be there and go through that and experience that. And you know, they'd still lose. I get that. But something happens different. We can't really explain it. What we can and do realize is that there's something that happens to us when we're physically there. So if there's nothing that's remembered after we're finished tonight, other than this, then my time with you will have been well invested. Get your ticket for Celebration before you go to bed tonight if you don't already have it. If you already have your ticket to Celebration, get your room and make whatever commitment you need to make to go. And you won't really understand that if you haven't been until you go. But if we bump into each other there, and you're one of these people who are on the Zoom tonight, come up to me and tell me what you think. And if it's the morning of, you might say, well, I'm here, but I'm not so sure about this. A lot of people are jumping on chairs. This is a little crazy for me. But if it's the last day and you find me, you'll probably run and jump in my arms, no matter who you are, and say, thank you. It made no sense to me whatsoever, but wow, am I glad I came. And then that will lead you to the next event. And so it's kind of like, you know, there's a series of ups and downs in the business. And kind of what keeps pulling us back up are those events and the people and the success stories and all those things. And every once in a while, it kind of sticks. And maybe it's one thought, one idea, one technique, one principle, one whatever, and we just keep putting them in, putting them in, putting them in. And then one day we realize, hey, we're an executive. And then one day we realize, hey, you know, I just qualified for 3-star, you know, 6-figure income. Wow, that's amazing. And then one day, you know, it's 5-star. And then one day, it's one day. You know, when you introduced me as being a 13-star executive or 13-star platinum, 8-star executive, that's just me. Lynn is an 18-star something and like, I don't know what. And the company won't let us add the 2 of them together because it just sounds ridiculous. You know, so when they introduce us at Celebration, do remember, they're going to introduce us with her title, but our income. And so if you go look up that we're 18-star whatever, and then you look at the little picture that they have us in the foyer of the event, and it shows that we made just under $3 million for the year, and you look that up in the little thing, and you go, but they're an 18-star. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't compute because they're not including my title. So what we know for sure is you can make really good money here. You can be really healthy here. You can make some pretty good friends here. It's not a bad gig, you know, and the crazy part is over time, I do believe, because it's day one, $1 cumulative, I do believe that if you want to bad enough over time, anyone listening that is willing to put in the time, the effort, and the energy can become a millionaire in this company and look back and say, that's extraordinary. And if it took you 10 years to do it, you would not be earning $100,000 in year 10. You would have earned an average of $100,000 a year over 10 years. But odds are good, if it took you 10 years to get there, you might be at 200,000 or 300,000 or more in that 10th year. In other words, it would be going like that. And that's just, I mean, that just gets me excited, and I hope it gets some of you excited too. But I'm going to conclude my part by giving you a couple of to-dos for those of you that are interested, because we'll never get all the questions out. And so I learned a long time ago that if I could just share with someone with the basics of cooking, you know, this is an oven, this is a measuring cup, here's kind of where you buy stuff, it's called the grocery store. I'm being a bit silly, but I'm trying to make a point. And then I left you with a cookbook. You could thumb through that cookbook and you could kind of find what you wanted. And if the instructions were good, if the ingredients were listed properly, if the process by which they go together is accurate, and if it did denote temperature and time, if you followed it, you could probably make something that would be decent to eat. And if you kept working on your skill over time, it would not only be decent to eat, it would be beautiful to look at as well. And so I shared this with the group we're developing in the United Kingdom. And I said, there's a couple of pages I want you to become really familiar with. The first is isagenixhealth.net. Now, all of you know it. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But do you go there? Do you read from time to time some of those articles? Do you let that information really inspire you? Because when you become 10 feet tall and bulletproof when it comes to this product, then if someone tells you no, it's okay. You just bump through that and you move beyond it. And so we talked about that for a little bit. I said, make sure you know about the science. You read the science. You understand either the layman's overview or you really know the science. But really get familiar with isagenixhealth.net. That's the real, honest, goodness, truth about our products. But then if you go to this other website, which I know you know about too, but if you're like most of us in Isagenix, you may not be spending any time there, which is isagenixpodcast.com. And when you go to isagenixpodcast.com, guess what? Like that menu in the restaurant, you're going to see the categories at the top. And people ask all the time about Lynn. They say, how in the world did she become the fastest person to earn $1 million in Isagenix? She must have had experience. Yes, she did. She must have come from another network marketing company. She did. Some people must have come with her. They did. And let me ask you, do you think she's the only one? In 15 years of the company's history, do you think Lynn's the only person that ever came from another company, that ever had anybody follow her, that showed up with some experience? Do you think she's the only one? And then they begin to realize, okay, probably not. Then why does she still hold the record all these years later? And they say, well, what did she do? Would you like to know her story? If I could get you on the phone where you could have a conversation with Lynn and she could tell you exactly what she did, would you like me to set that call up? And you could imagine what most people in Isagenix that know her say, like, listen to the person who shattered that record and still owns it, and is now like the #1 income earner. She'll talk with me and tell me what she did. I'd love to know, what did she do? I said, well, she's not in a position to do that. She wouldn't have any time. So guess what she did? Through Isagenix Corporate, they allowed her to record that story. And Kirsty Cody interviewed her. And if you go to that website we don't talk about very often, called isagenixpodcast.com, and in the search box you type in Lynn Hagedorn, Hagedorn, and you click on it, it pulls up every recording Lynn's done. But if you scroll all the way down, the very first one she did back in 2000, and I think it was 14 or 15, right after she'd broken that record, is still up there. It's 27 minutes long, and it's Lynn telling exactly what she did to become that individual. Now, I'm not suggesting if you listen to it once or twice, you're going to go, okay, I got it. But wow, wouldn't it give you a little bit of depth? Wouldn't it clear up some misunderstandings? Wouldn't it help maybe give you some insight? Well, what about that doctor from that Skidmore College thing who keeps talking about these products and how they're working? Do you know he's got like 3 podcasts on there? And he's talking about how the products actually behave and perform in the body. When I started listening to them, I just thought, how did I not know these were here? You know, I'm paying attention. How did I not know these were here? And then it dawned on me, if I didn't know these were here, maybe my team didn't know they were here either. So I started doing this really crazy thing, letting them know, hey, this is a pretty good podcast. You may want to listen to this. And so it's these little tiny things that don't seem to really matter, like the salt. So small, so inconsistent or insignificant in the grand scheme of the big turkey meal. I mean, I've got this big turkey, I have a little bit of salt, doesn't seem to matter. Leave it out and watch what happens. So if you want to master those fundamentals, if you want to learn how to prospect, you want to learn how to present, and you want to learn how to duplicate, I'm telling you what, it's all there for you. And if you are having, in conclusion, a challenge prospecting, and you're finding that you're just not comfortable moving it from meeting someone into sharing the story, this is such a challenge. It comes up so often with so many. It's one of the fundamentals we have to master. That I did a live Zoom, and then I had it closed captioned, so you can sneak it and watch it at work if you don't get in trouble. You could just watch the words go across, but it's closed captioned. And Lynn and I put it up on our little generic page. It's free. We're not collecting emails. We don't want anything. We're not selling anything. Go, don't go. It doesn't matter to us. We just put it up there so it's easy. So here's how you find it. You just go to YouTube. And when you get to YouTube, find the search little magnifying glass on YouTube. And then in the little search magnifying glass on YouTube, type in Michael and Lynn. No spaces, no dashes, nothing. Just MichaelAndLynn and hit enter. And you'll see this beautiful little picture of the two of us pop up. You'll know who we are. Click on it and it will take you to our YouTube channel. I have a presentation up there called 7 Secrets of Successful Prospectors. It's generic, but let me suggest to you, it's generic with the understanding of isogenics. In other words, I don't say isogenics. I don't mention isomovie.com. I don't talk about those things. But when you watch it, you're like, wink, wink, I get it. This is exactly what you must be doing within the space of isogenics. Yes. And so now when people come to me, and I did it because we have people on our own team that say, Michael, this is really hard. And if I take an hour with them on the telephone, it's hard to get that hour back. But if I record this and put it up there and it just lives 24/7, 365, and I'll tell you what to look for since we're ending this call today. Look for the biggest single mistake that people are making in moving from prospecting, which is basically collecting a person's name or their information so that you know who they are and you can reach out to them. And then before they move into presenting, telling them who we are and what we can do to benefit them. There is one epic error that the majority of people are making where they are bridging that gap incorrectly. And when you understand what I'm saying, and you'll have to watch it to understand that, and when you make that adjustment, which is so incredibly easy to do, your business will forever be easier than it currently is now. No matter how easy it is for you today, I'll guarantee you it's the single biggest challenge people have. And it's beautifully laid out. It's easy to watch. And I'm sharing that with you, not because I want anything for it. It's just there. It's my way of giving back to people so I can leverage my time, because remember that Aladdin's lamp. We've got the better body. Isogenics is helping us with that. We've got the bigger bank account. The team is helping us with that. But we want the freedom to have time to enjoy both. So as Lynn and I run across these challenges that we face every single day, we're doing lives. We don't expect people to see them. Then we have them closed captioned, and we put them all up on that page. That's where they'll be. And the information is just there. Use it, share it. Again, it doesn't link to anything. It doesn't go to anyone. It's not about anything other than I put it up there so that I can get the team plugged in. Because if we can get our team understanding that challenge and how to overcome it, then everyone wins. And that's how we benefit. So, Carolyn, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Sorry, I seem like every time I talk, I get closer and closer to this thing. My head is going to be huge on this.
That's okay. We felt like we had like a front row seat. Right. And thank you for that. I mean, you gave us so much wisdom, but boy, for the people who stuck around, I am so going to be promoting that site. And this is what Isogenics is all about. When Michael talked about, and people say, so why would an industry expert like Michael Clouse come and join Isogenics, right? Why is Tony Robbins coming in and speaking here? And it's the culture of this company, the giving back. And, you and Lynn are two very special people. You guys helped me so much when I was on that panel with Lynn, and the very basic things you talked about here, and if you don't have, I don't know where people can get these things, but I've got them. I listen to them, and it's like visualization, the process of the mirror technique. You've taught me so much, using my spare time wisely to fill my head with the things that I desire. And now I love this. And Casey put it up in the chat box there, where you can find this. We'll put it up in our Facebook page. And so thank you for your service. Is the beautiful Lynn Hagedorn hanging around anywhere?
She's somewhere. I have no idea where
I thought maybe when you turned around, you were looking at her. But anyhow, Just say thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the both of you. We learned so much from you. And this truly, I don't know, guys, if you want to unmute yourself and just say thank you to Michael. I think this was a master class. It was for me anyhow. So anybody want to say anything to Michael?
Wonderful, Michael. Kathy and I are very pleased to have seen this and look forward to looking at the YouTube and following up on some of these sites that you have identified that we aren't doing enough of.
Thank you.
I feel sorry for all the people that missed it.
Thank you, Michael.
We're going to get the recording out. So thank you, Michael. And I appreciate your time tonight. And guys, watch out. Next month, we'll have another master trainer here. And you never know who I'm going to come up with. So thank you, Michael. I will see you and Lynn at Celebration.
Cheers.
Thank you both very much.
It was amazing. Thank you.